the fourth work in progress development demo for SMARTISO, a piece of software that I'm building to help organizations achieve and maintain their ISO 27001 certification in a little bit more of a friendlier and quicker way. Okay, so we're now going to look at the threat register and the controls register. So once we have assessed the assets and the threats and we have the context organization as we have done in previous videos, now we're going to populate the risk register. So right now it's empty. We can add a new risk manually just by clicking up here and give some information about it. We can ask it to a type of risk assessment, give it a type of risk assessment there and link it to a project. We can say when it was last modified, the time and date, and then its next review date, which will automatically populate with the current time and a year from now. We'll be able to change that later on in the risk assessment type. We give it a 1 to 5 score based on the impact and likelihood, and then an overall risk score. We can then link this to assets that we've populated earlier. We can then add an owner to that risk, and then we can choose how we're going to treat that risk with the standard risk control treatment options there. We can then also ask it to populate controls via AI as well, straight from ISO 27001. Now, what we're going to do for this project here that we've looked at is we're going to automatically populate the risk register. So we've toggled AI populate risks on, and we're going to click save. It's taking all of the information that it knows about the threats and the assets and populated the risk register for this project and given it a risk likelihood and impact score and an overall risk score there. If we go into one of these, you can see that it has populated that for us. So from that, we can actually go and populate the controls for this risk as well. Now, we can do this on a risk by risk basis, but I think actually I'd rather do this on a project basis. So let's go to this project, which is customer facing web store, and we're going to ask it to populate the controls. Now it's going through all of the risks, all of the threats, all of the assets, and the context of the organization to ask AI to populate the control register with the controls straight from ISO 27002 2022 edition, and it should just take a couple of seconds. There we go. If we now go into controls, we can see here that it's populated all of the controls here from ISO 27002. If we click on one of these controls, it'll give us a description of the control directly relating to the risk and the context of the organization. We've linked it to a risk as well. So it's done that for us. So there you have it. We've just implemented a risk register and a controls register in about a minute. It's nice and simple, and of course, as always, you can add controls manually. Just here, select owners and a control and a list the risk there as well. I thought it'd be actually quite fun to see how long it would take SMARTISO to populate an asset register, a threat register, a risk register, and a controls register based on a project brief that we give it. So just to make sure that there's nothing in here, I'm going to delete all of the controls in here that we've got with our bulk functionality that we have built in. Same with the risks. Let's get rid of them. And also the threat register, let's clear that. By the way, these can all be tweaked with permissions in the user permissions area that I'll show you on another video. But let's delete all of those. Okay, so we've got a clear register, asset register, threat register, risk register, and control register. And we can go into our project and open that up there, and we're going to ask it to populate all of these at the same time, and let's see how long it takes it. Save. Okay, so what it's actually doing now is going to the context of the organization. It's going to the project description and trying to identify all of the threats for this project, all of the assets for this project, and give them a 1 to 5 impact and likelihood score to the organization. And this is doing this all through AI. From that information, it will then populate the risk register and give it a risk score based on all of the threats and the assets that are fed into those risks. and then it will identify ISO 27001 controls or ISO 27002 2022 controls against all of those risks. And it did that in about 35 seconds. And let's just have a look. So if we now go to the asset register, we can see that's been populated. We can now see that the threat register has been populated as well with likelihood scores and descriptions for each of the threats. We can go to the risks. We can see that it's now created a risk register from those assets and threats with all of the populated information in there. And then finally, the controls register. So all of these controls are being matched to the project, and we can do things like filter by project as well. So we can see different types of risk by project. So there you have it. So if this is interesting to you, then please get in contact over on cyberelectric.io. You can send us a message through there or directly message me on LinkedIn. I think this is really interesting. I think that whilst now it's not entirely accurate, it shows where we're going, and we can now fine tune this and tweak it to make it more accurate. And the more information you put into it, the more it learns. So it becomes more accurate over time as well. Thank you very much for everyone for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.